Okay, well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the first Finance and Staffing Committee meeting of the new administration. There should be a round of applause at this point, but no matter. Right, you must forgive me if I get things wrong, being a complete virgin in local authority affairs. So, but I think I'm not alone in that.
We'll forgive you.
Indeed.
We have apologies for absence from David, who is on holiday, and no others. So. Right, declaration of the councillors' interests. Are there any relevant to the subjects on the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, possibly. On the bank reconciliation for June, there is a reference which I want to question, and it happens to be related to Carey's DIY shop in Portishead, which is owned and run by my brother.
Right. Okay, duly noted. And we will discuss that under the relevant item on the agenda.
It might just be a typo, I don't know.
Okay. Right.
I've got none that I'm aware of, so.
None that I'm aware of.
I have nothing to declare. Good.
Thank you.
Public participation. We have no attendees from the public. Do we have any requests for info? I'm sorry, we do, Carrie. I apologise. Do we have any questions tabled by email or any other route?
No, we don't, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Item 5, minutes of the last meeting.
I'm the only one here that was here.
It's okay, you
So
can
would you
still
then?
sign them off apparently, as long as you feel that it's
Are you happy that they fairly represent what was said at that
From my
meeting?
memory, when I was at the meeting, they represent what was said, so yes.
Good. Can we have a vote?
I'm happy to
Propose and
propose it.
second.
I'll second.
Duly noted.
Who signs it off, Wendy?
you, the chair, you vote to sign it off,
Yeah, but then
agree it, and then
John,
John
just double
signs
checking,
it
that's
off.
fine.
Yeah,
Thought he did,
that's
but just
it.
wanted to double check, yeah.
Okay, Chairman's verbal update report. Well, my name's John. For what it's worth, my background is mainly commercial finance, but I've been extensively involved in a large local charity. And there are many similarities between charity finance and local authority finance. I can't give you an update on the budget because at this stage I don't understand it sufficiently, but I understand that it was properly authorised and has been duly accepted and is now the working budget for this year. I can comment on the internal audit report, which I have read, and I hope you have too. It is an excellent report by and large, with 4 relatively minor recommendations, which we will discuss when we come to that report. Right, the internal audit report is item 7. So can I assume that everyone has read it? Right. We have a number of recommendations and we have an overall very favourable outcome, and there are no issues raised which prevent us getting a cleaner audit report. The specific recommendations relate to signing off bank reconciliations, the pursuit of old outstanding debt, the extraction of VAT from petty cash records insofar as that is possible, and there was an inquiry about our investment policy. Can you update us, Wendy, as to where we stand on each of those points?
Okay, with regard to signing off the bank reconciliations and the bank statements, we've made adjustments to ensure that they will be done as recommended by the internal auditor. With regard to the investment policy, that's something that Rachel and I will have to have a look at. I don't believe we've got anything in place. I don't know whether Bob can update us on that. He might be able to, but I don't think there's anything in place. Rachel, do you know any more on that? There, you're there.
I think we do have an investment policy somewhere. I'll have a look, Wendy, dig it out for you tomorrow.
Thank you.
I thought we transferred
Bob will know better than me because he's the chair, but I'm sure we transferred X amount of money into a.
Yeah, we
Definitely
did.
something was transferred.
Yes,
Yeah, no, the account's been opened with the CCLA, but we haven't yet put any money in because it's only recently been opened.
Yeah.
But that's something that I will be doing in the next couple of weeks once we've got the new signatories sorted.
Yeah, there is a draft policy somewhere.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can we fish out the draft policy and
Yep, certainly can.
have a look at it, everyone, and bring it to the next Finance Committee meeting? Hopefully with a recommendation for full council to adopt.
Can I just,
Yes.
a question related to the closure of the Monmouthshire Building Society accounts. Do I assume that that's linked with the opening of new ones or the transfer of money into better interest-bearing accounts, that sort of thing?
Yes, that's correct. We've moved the monies to a scheme that is set up specifically for charities and local government, and it gives us a better return. Rach, can you elaborate a little bit on it?
Yeah, the Monmouthshire return was very, very small, and with the way interest rates are at the moment, it just seemed common sense really to move it into somewhere where we'll be getting much better interest rate. I don't know off the top of my head what the current interest rate is, but we should be getting sort of £300-400 a month interest, hopefully.
That sounds about right. Okay. Right, then, has anyone got any issues to raise on the internal auditor's report?
I think it's a very good report within reason. I don't think it's very well presented within the recommendations. They're hidden. I wouldn't write a report like this with recommendations and hide them within the main subtext of the document. I would put them separate.
There's a bit at the end which summarises them.
Yeah, I think I just expect them to be at the end altogether, I think is my point. I also
There's
think
a sideways page,
Yeah,
which has
page
got the
11.
recommendations on it.
I just think my other comment is the fact that it just shows you what a good ship we've actually run for the past 4 years, and this council has inherited a very healthy council that is on its own footing and actually stand on its own 2 feet. So I personally have to think, we should thank Bob Bull for his particularly hard work and fellow officers that have done it and councillors that have done it personally, because it was an immense amount of work in the background to actually get us on a sure footing, and we've actually maintained that and done it. So I would like to applaud Bob Bull and his work.
Can you make sure that is minuted?
Yep.
Okay. Does anyone else have any issues they'd like to raise on the audit report?
No, I thought it was
Can I have
easy to understand.
Propose and seconder to accept the report and pass it on to the full council?
Yeah.
Good.
Could we take a vote on that, please?
Yeah.
Thank
A
you.
unanimous vote?
Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Item 8, accounts for the year ending March 23. These are included in the agenda papers, and if I recall, they show us with total income of 1.1 million in round numbers and total expenditure of 1.2 million. The main reason for the difference being I'm hoping for suggestions here.
Rachel, you know the accounts better than I do.
I'm sorry, I can't actually hear.
Ask your question again, John.
Okay, we're looking at the tabled accounts, the income and expenditure account for the year ending March 23. Total income in round numbers 1.1 million. Total expenditure in round numbers 1.2 million. Is there a specific reason for the overspend?
I think I sent you all the details, didn't I? I sent you breakdown in quite depth of what that was.
Is there anything that needs to be minuted for the purposes of this meeting?
Only if there's anything of concern. Rach, did the internal auditor pick up anything that he was concerned about with regard to income and expenditure?
Not at all.
Okay, right. Does anyone have any issues about the income and expenditure account?
I think it was, obviously having been part of the past council for 4 years, I think it all makes sense to me. It all adds up because obviously what we've been spending year on year, it's all pretty consistent. Obviously there are a couple of things that kind of naturally jump out a little bit more than others. Obviously you could argue, but that is the decision that the previous council took to invest in. Obviously skate park's one of them, obviously, and help us with that. But obviously also some of that expense is offset because money's been coming in and then going out again from relevant sources, i.e. Viola or National Lottery's just arrived.
Taking on that sort of
Taking on it,
series
yeah.
of comments, I mean, as a new councillor, I mean, inevitably you end up sort of looking about the income and expenditure on some items like the public toilets down at Wyndham Way and one or two of the village halls, and you think, hang on a minute, you know, there's more expenditure than there is income, and there could be a field of questions related to that sort of matter, but inevitably that's old council stuff, which
Yes.
probably doesn't, you know, involve us here in the here and now.
I think you can also add to that on your comment around the toilets. Obviously, they're costing us more money than they should because of the fact that people think it's okay to vandalise things, and it's not, and that is ultimately the problem. So
I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean that's what I figured was going on. But with an income of only £1,000 over a period of time,
I think it's quite good. Yeah, most people accept that.
I think going forward, if people have got specific questions about in-depth accounts and stuff like that, can they please email me with them before the meeting? Because then I can give you a detailed and accurate explanation and breakdown and things. It's very difficult in a meeting to actually go through these sort of things. That's why the agenda paper sort of sent out the week before. So then, you know, any queries you can get back to me before the meeting.
Sure.
Thank you.
Duly noted, Rachel, and we will do so.
Yeah.
Right, we need to vote on a recommendation to recommend these accounts to the full council.
I'll have to propose it.
Thank you.
Proposed, seconded, voted, all in favour. Right, item 9, consolidated bank statement. Attached for recommendation to full council.
So, I mean, no comments from me at all. Again, I think just well put together again, and Rachel for doing the hard work behind the scenes, putting it together. So yeah, it's all clear and makes sense.
If no one wishes to raise any issues on it? No. Can we have a proposer, seconder to accept these? Thank you. Unanimously. Right, the annual governance and accountability return. This is item 10. Again, we have a large number of forms with all ticks in the right places, which will, I assume, ultimately be going forward to the full council for signature by yourself as chairman, Ben. Is that correct?
It will do, yes. Yes.
Does
Sorry, I
anyone
was just
have
reading the second part of it again. Yeah.
Does anyone have any issues they want to raise on these?
Again, I think it just proves that actually we're doing a good job, and actually we're maintaining a safe and stable council to represent and look after the town and the public.
Yeah.
So I just think, again, it goes back to comment, you know, Bob Borth and previous was doing this, but also particularly the officers, the work that's done in the background by the officers is phenomenal. So yeah, thank you.
Please ensure that remark is noted for the agenda.
We can't function without the officers. So.
Perfectly true. Okay, and then we are asked to recommend the approval of sections 1 and 2 of the AGAR reports, and to consider and note the period of public rights will commence on the 3rd of July and end on the 11th of August. What rights do the public have in this matter? Purely for information.
The public are able to ask anything really about the accounts.
Okay.
Obviously they have to make an appointment, but they make an appointment with Wendy to come in and have a look and question any of the figures within that time period, because, you know, we have to be fully transparent.
Okay, duly noted.
Just a comment there on previous, it's always been our predecessors when I was there, if you see what I mean. So your predecessors came in and tried to make life difficult. So I would warn you, John, it's best to let them come in, raise their questions in writing and answer them in writing, not get in a debate with them, because they'll just try and be clever. They're not. So, just as a warning.
Thank you very much for that advice, Bob.
My question was just going to be on that matter, how many members of the public do tend to take up the offer of coming in and scrutinising?
Same one each year.
How many? Oh, the same one each
Same
year.
one each year.
And,
Okay.
and last year I did offer to come down and meet with that person and go through the accounts, but they didn't take my offer up.
No, I think they're not after you. They're after the councillors, and that's what they've always tried to do. And as I say, I'm just warning John, let Rachel do it the same way she did last year. If they choose not to come in,
I should be
fine.
only too delighted to. Okay, so the recommendations on the annual governance report. Can we have a proposer, seconder? Right,
Yeah, so-
and unanimous vote in favour, I presume? Yes, excellent.
Thank you.
Right. Item 11, parking enforcement officer. Now, the position, as I understand it, is that we had an agreement with North Somerset Council that because we were not receiving the full services that were agreed, we would not be paying the full charge. It now appears that they're going back on that. And the issue is, what do we do about it?
I think obviously there was a meeting with previous councillors with North Somerset, and it was agreed that we will only pay for what we get. So if they give us half a day, we pay for half a day. If they give us 2 days, we pay for it. However, to now have even the guile to come and ask us for all this money, I think they should go and have a long, hard look in their mirror and then come back to us with another answer. My suggestion would be, being diplomatic, that we arrange a meeting with the relevant North Somerset officers, have a conversation, remind them of the conversations that were had previously, and then come to an agreement. Do I think we should pay them all this money? Absolutely no chance. They've not delivered a service that they proposed and promised to deliver. And you can tell that because the parking in the town is still appalling. And it's
Okay,
just not the
that
opposite.
sounds like good advice to me. Paul,
I'm in the same camp, but I wasn't part of that meeting, but I'm guessing it was minuted. You know, it's around a financial payment, so I'm guessing it will have all been minuted, and I think it's absolutely right. I think we should get back with those people, the same people, and sit around the table with them, you know, with the minutes, so it's all really clear what was agreed.
right.
I'm in agreement as well. I'm assuming, reading the papers, that this is someone that comes in from the area, Weston-super-Mare and Nelsingfield and such like, and comes forward his head regularly. I think I've only seen him, is it him generally? Once or twice. And trawls around for a few hours and goes away again.
Yeah,
So yes, I agree with what has already been said, yeah.
Hello?
No, exactly the same. Yeah.
Bob's got his hand up. She can probably have an input to this as well.
Well,
Yeah,
Bob, did you want to say something on this?
Just as the history, as you're saying, there were 2 meetings involved. One was where the councillors, Portishead councillors, met the executive, Steve Hogg, and I can't remember another one, but certainly another person agreed at that time that we should pay for what we get. I had conversations and emails with Alan Taylor, I think is the right name. And he agreed that that was a reasonable position to go forward. Obviously, the council has changed there, but don't let them fool you into thinking that they didn't agree. It was definitely agreed that we were quite happy to pay anything up to the full amount already agreed, providing they could show hours on site, and they do charge the travelling because they do come up from Weston. You're right, they're based in Weston, but it was clear that they were coming up 2-3 days. I think Wendy's probably still getting, I hope, the attendance charts, and I don't see any reason why we should not pay exactly the same as we agreed a number of months ago. I would say it was probably the back end of last year, that agreement.
So it was a good
It
6
was.
months ago,
Yeah,
and then
it
the
was.
meeting with North Somerset officers was in March time, wasn't it? So
I understand we have 17,000 set aside. How much extra are North Somerset claiming?
Hold on. Should be in the report.
I'm just looking for the invoices.
So they're asking for a total of £5,043.43, and then second invoice was for November to December and January 23, and that's for £5,696.81. So effectively, they're asking for best part of £11,000.
In
Well-
addition to the 17 we've got set aside.
I'm assuming that's coming out the
No,
17.
it's coming out.
That's coming out the 17. The 17 is the budget we've
17 is the
allocated.
budget, Yeah.
That's what's been allocated within the budget. So they're asking for effectively £11,000 of it.
So was that 17, was that for a service being delivered as we were expecting?
Yes.
That was,
Yes,
yes,
that's
that's what we
the figure.
allocated because that's before we understood and before the problem kind of surfaced itself.
Sorry.
That's what was agreed in the budget line.
Yeah, I mean, the budget used to be 40,000 when they were fully doing the job.
Yeah, we
Um,
reduced it.
But it became clear that that wasn't the case. I mean, they carried on charging at 40 divided by 12, regardless of who was turning up and how many. That was when we said, well, this isn't on.
But am I correct, Bob? They've never actually provided us the proper figures we actually ever asked for as well.
Well, they were. I hope they still are, but I did have them. Obviously, I don't now because I don't have access to anything anymore. But there are submitted hourly attendance hours. They should be somewhere on file.
Yeah.
Can we just check that, Wendy? 'Cause-
Yeah, the figures that are in the report are based upon the figures that we were given, and Rachel has recalculated them. So the costs that she's recalculated here are based on the figures that they've given us. Is that right, Rachel?
Yes, it is. But when I sent that back to the officer, who I can't remember his name at North Somerset, he said that I wasn't to use those figures. He didn't agree with the way we'd calculated it, obviously.
Is it worth checking out with other town councils in the district as to what arrangements they have?
I think we're the only one that's got a warden that we're paying for.
We agreed to do it separately because we weren't getting the service generally, and the parking issues were getting worse. And I think it goes back to my original point, which we kind of all agreed, wasn't it? We have to set up a meeting face to face and thrash this out, because ultimately to pay this is ludicrous. I mean, I've seen this officer or an officer probably once in the past 6-7 weeks. And I drive through the town quite a lot in the way back from work, and it's not acceptable. And it's not just in the town that's the problem. It's all over the town. It's up on Down Road, up on Hillside Road, up down on the marina, around. Say, the parking's crazy. I mean, apparently it's acceptable to park on a footpath and totally block it these days. Well, that's what the office is there for. You can park on the footpath because there's no law, apart from in London, to stop you parking on the footpath. But you have to leave a suitable width for a wheelchair user / double buggy, which is an acceptable width is within the regulations of disabilities about 1200. I think you have to leave there or thereabouts. But you're lucky if you have that. I mean, you have to breathe through. You're just like, how dare you? If you talk to them and challenge them, what's the problem? Well, the problem is you're blocking the footpath. But because it's a two-pronged issue from my point anyway. One, the officer isn't doing their job to not provide the service over the past year. They've failed miserably. And two, the police don't do their job because we don't have enough police. So it's a double jeopardy, isn't it? We're stuck in the middle.
Well, and three, they're not carrying out what they agreed to.
No. Well, they're not actually delivering what we signed up for in the first place. They've actually, you could argue, they're in breach of contract, full stop. So actually, do they have the right to invoice us anyway?
Yeah.
I'd argue they probably don't. And I'd argue if we actually challenged it, we'd probably have a good.
I'm not a commercial lawyer, but I think the payment for the services you actually receive is generally reckoned to be fair.
We go back to the point, isn't it? We have to have the conversation because we don't think it's fair.
Yeah.
Right. So our recommendation to full council is to go back to North Somerset, reinstate our point of view, and try to get them to see reason.
Okay. Try and set up a meeting.
Okay.
We need to vote on that, don't we, as well then?
Yes, please.
So I'm happy to propose that we have the meeting with North Somerset.
Happy to second it.
All those in favour?
All those in favour? Yes.
Not unanimous.
Okay,
But
section.
thank you to Bob though for trying to sort it out in the past. I know it's a thankless task.
Right, item 12. Do we need to explicitly approve each of these documents separately? Or can we take them in a single lump?
We've previously done it in a single line.
You
We've
can
gone
do it
through
as a
them
single line, yeah.
Do you need the BDO declaration signed separately?
Yes, please.
Rachel?
Yes, please.
Yes. So okay.
Where
So
does that appear on the agenda?
everything else.
There was one payment which I know somebody's just queried with
Yes.
Careys. Is that right?
That's right, yes.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
It seems to be on the
I just looked it up and I do apologise. You are right. It's I typed in, it must have picked up Careys, but it should have been Citizens Advice. So I will amend that tomorrow.
My brother was certainly struck by
I do apologise.
this windfall. He welcomes it.
It went to the right people. I typed it in wrong.
Right, does anyone have any issues on the, apart from that one now as a whole, anyone have any issues on the 176,000 of payments in March? Or the 167,000 in April and the 157,000 in May?
No issues or questions or concerns from me.
Right, and the bank reconciliation statements for May, there are 3 papers. Does anyone have any issues with those? Right.
No, I'm happy. So,
Okay, and we have the summary and detailed income and expenditure accounts for May, the 2 months ending May, which show a reasonably healthy position, albeit slightly distorted by grants.
Just one point
Yes,
on the
indeed.
detail. It was at a previous meeting that we were going to up the subscription for Avon Wildlife Trust. Should that have happened in May?
Rach, has the Avon Wildlife Trust invoice come through yet?
We don't get invoiced from then. It goes out by direct debit every month, £5.
Right, okay, we think that might have gone up, is that right?
But I don't know what months we were going to start it.
it was started from June, wasn't it? Because it was agreed in the 17th of May full council first meeting, wasn't it? It was
Right,
17th of May,
yeah.
wasn't
Well,
it?
that
It's
may
still
not,
at £5 as far as the 15th of May payment is
okay, so it
concerned.
might not be showing yet.
Right, okay.
It might.
That was my only
next month.
question.
Can you remind us then what it was going up to?
We do have it limited, because I remember we were talking about it at the thing. I think it was slightly, it might have been up to 750 or something like that.
Yeah.
It was only minuscule.
Yeah, we'll check that, Rach, we'll make sure.
Okay, thank you.
That was the only thing.
Okay, right. Payments by direct debit, well, that's all of those. So can we have a block approval for items 1 to 6? Which is all of those.
Yeah.
Happy to forward
Thank you.
propose
And-
and second it. Yeah.
All in favour?
Yep.
Those in favour, sorry, I must stop saying all in favour, it's a reflex action. Okay, the conflict of interest report with BDO. I take it everyone has seen that. Does anyone have any conflicts of interest to reveal? Is
None I'm aware of.
none that I'm aware of.
No.
Emma?
No, the only thing to mention still is the my allotment on Beach Hill,
Yeah,
which
fine.
that's it. That's the only financial link. Yeah.
In which case, can we have a proposer and seconder to authorise that?
Happy to second.
And a vote, those in favour?
Yeah.
Could you please, Wendy and one other person sign that tonight? So then, and then Wendy, could you email it to me because I have to send it off with the accounts.
Sure, no problem,
Thank
Rach, we'll do that.
Who would you like to sign it?
Yep. I'll put minute number in later.
And I think could John sign it as well? Would be great.
Yes, certainly.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And if you wouldn't mind, I'll scan that.
where it says chair,
That's it. Thank you very much.
How do they give you enough room to sign these documents? It's like, why is it always right next to each other? It should be like a two-spaces.
Okay.
right. That's done, right.
That's done. Yep.
Next one is the CIL report, Community Infrastructure Levy. Have I got
That's
that
right.
right?
That's right.
Wonderful, right. We currently have receipts of something like, it's very difficult to read on these screens, sorry. £112,000 net of payments made so far. Does that sound correct, Rachel? Am I interpreting the document correctly?
Yes, you are. Yeah.
And that's all sitting in our bank account somewhere.
Yes.
Good.
There's a separate account in there for CIL.
It's in a earmark reserve. Yeah.
Right. Does
Assuming
anyone?
that money, yeah, sorry, John. I'm assuming that money, Rachel, includes the £40,000 that's been allocated against WASP. Okay, declaration of interest here. 'Cause I'm asking a general question, which was agreed previously, but yeah.
It only includes the expenditure that's gone out.
Yeah.
So it includes 10,000 that's been spent to WASP, but that's all so far.
That's fine. So I have to add to the £40,000 WASP only asked for £10,000 then. Is that what
Sorry.
you're saying? So out of the £40,000 that was allocated, WASP have only spent £10,000 to date. Is that what you're saying?
10,000 plus another 1,000 for the gate and 2,000 for the benches. So
That's fine.
about
Cool.
14,000 has been spent. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. That's fine. Yeah. So can you just note my interest on that one, please,
Yeah,
Wendy? Obviously, it's a
will do.
pecuniary interest as well, obviously, because I'm a director of the group. I just wanted to make sure that the figures that we'd agreed are actually being taxed back where they are. That's fine. I'm happy with that.
Oh, there's actually another 6.5 that went out to WASP as well a bit earlier. So it's about 20,000.
Okay. So we need to agree then, don't we, really, as a full council, what actually we're going to do with this SIL money for the benefit of the town and the residents ultimately. Because it does need to be spent over a period of time, but also there is some money at some point to come in as well from the development between Bottolinos and Aqua, and also the developments that's backing onto Keys Avenue as well. That money's not coming yet, it's not been completed. So there will be two developments to come in. That's not both of them aren't for completed, because actually the Bottolinos one, as I drove past for the first time the other day, they're actually advertising it now for sale. So we just need to make sure that we're on the ball with North Somerset on that one.
Yeah.
Good luck selling them. They're all very expensive.
I can imagine. Anything like the prison was before they decided to get rid of it, yeah.
Okay, so does anyone have any issues to raise on the CIL paper? Mike?
No.
Emma?
My only proposal will be that we obviously, as a full council, we consider probably not this month because it's
Indeed.
too early, but we consider probably September. Actually, we get our heads together and decide how we're going to allocate the money. But I would also suggest that we keep some money in the locker as a rainy day fund as well.
Always useful.
Yeah.
Yes. Is there a time limit within which we have to spend the money?
The dates are actually on that spreadsheet. It says
My
used by,
apologies.
and the dates are put in there.
Yeah, well, we've got several years because the earliest is for 2026.
Especially with the newer stuff, the SIL money is. So I
It's
think
5
we just
years.
yeah.
Fine, yeah. Okay. Thank you, Rachel. Right. So we have received. Do we need a formal note on that?
No, just to note that you've seen that. That's fine.
Fine.
Yeah.
And finally, the insurance annual renewal with BHIB.
This is year 3, isn't it? The final year of the agreement we had with them.
Is it the final year, Rachel? Did we
No,
look
it's we've just taken out a 1-year contract because we didn't have time to go out for a full sort of quote and tender. So we're imposing that we just do it for a year, and within the next 6 months, we're going to go out and try and get another 3-year deal.
Cool. I mean, my only comment from them would be based on the fact that the interaction that we've had with them over the past 2 years is, I think they've actually looked, well, the past 3 years as such, they've actually looked after us very, very well. Whenever we've had a query, they've answered the query, and they've actually given us sound advice on that query as well. They've helped us out on the skate park. They've helped us out on the Jubilee Festival last year and the Coronation Festival this year. I think personally they provided a very, very good service. The cost is the cost, unfortunately, with insurance, isn't it? It's money for all rope, as I call it. But if you don't have it, then you come unstuck. I would recommend that we stick with them for this year, and then us then, as you say, go back out again.
When do we need to think seriously about a possible change?
Probably next March time, wouldn't it? Really give us time.
The contract starts on the 1st of June every year.
Yeah.
So 6 months prior, we would
So-
start to look at something else.
January next year.
Just give ourselves the option, but yeah.
Right, okay, but in the meantime, we note that we're getting good service.
And they're acting as a broker, presumably, aren't they?
I presume so.
Because I noticed the property damage is with Aviva and liability.
Yes.
Yes, that's
Oh,
right.
yes.
Yeah.
It's like they're all behind, they're all one big front for someone else behind the scenes, aren't they?
Mm.
As long as we get value for money, that's all.
That's legal, they're based in Bristol,
Yeah.
at North and South Quay in Bristol, so I look up to the building. I just realised at the bottom.
Right, and that brings us to item 13, date of next meeting. I trust it's engraved in everybody's diaries. And I must enter in right away an apology because I shall be on holiday that day.
That day or that week?
Well, that fortnight actually.
Right. So is David's gone on around to chair the meeting?
So far as I know,
Okay, cool. That's fine.
Okay.
we will check that in due course,
Yes.
please.
Yeah, that's fine.
Obviously, if not, then we could just defer the meeting by a couple of weeks, couldn't we, if we needed to?
Yes.
Well, I will be back in the last few days of September, if that's of any use.
Okay, thank you, John.
Right. In our section 14, a recommendation that we exclude the public and press from discussion of further items.
Would you like me to leave, Wendy?
At which
Leighton.
point I'll
Do I
leave.
have to read it verbatim?
Unfortunately so.
Right.
Then we have to vote on it.
Okay.
It's true.
I'll update you, Rach.
Okay, thank you. Good night.
Thank you,
Good
Rachel.
night, Rachel. Thank you. Right, under the Public Bodies Admissions to Meetings Act 1960, members of the public and press are required to leave the meeting at items 15 and 16 due to the items being confidential matters, contractual staffing costs and confidential staffing matters. The recommendation is that councillors agree to exclude the public and press.
Happy to propose.
Yeah, happy to second.
All those in favour? Thank you.
Mm.